One big reason you might have struggled to stay consistent with your diet and your training in the past is that it took way too much time, way too much energy, and it actually took away from your other more important priorities in life, such as your work, your deen, your ibadah, your family, and all the reasons why you want to be fit in the first place. You want to be fit and lighter and healthier in the first place so you have more longevity, more strength, more energy for these things. So it doesn't make sense if your workouts are taking away time and energy from these things, but there is a way to work out that is still effective in producing the results that you're looking for, aka weight loss, have more energy, improving your health, getting your blood work on point as far as your cholesterol, your A1C, your blood pressure, whatever else you're looking at that you're concerned about. We can fix all of those things, but it needs to be done in an intelligent way, not just with your average, meathead diet, generic prescription. There is a customization element required here. However, I'm going to teach you the basic principles so you can start to do some stuff on your own. And then, of course, from there, I can also show you how to customize and go deeper into all the variables, etc., and nerd out. But I'm going to keep this one short and sharp just to give you the basic layover and give you some clarity why this other stuff hasn't really worked as far as, workouts and diets that drain your energy and time versus workouts and diets that are going to boost your energy and therefore boost your time because you're more efficient by the permission of Allah. As well as kind of just going through like some of the popular weight loss diet plans and, training and all that stuff. So let's dive into it. As far as the workouts go, right? A lot of these workouts that you see online from all these influencers are like these 2 to 3 hour bodybuilding routines that leave you thrashed and all that stuff, or even athletic routines that are good for people who have been doing it consistently for 5 to 10 years, have great genetics, they're either in their early 20s or they're on steroids and growth hormones, so they have, a lot of advantages that your average businessman in his 30s or 40s, your average doctor, your average IT tech programmer, engineer, accountant in his 30s and 40s is going to struggle with because you have higher stress, your cortisol levels are higher, you have greater demands, you have less time, and you need to be at peak energy levels all day long to where this workout is going to leave you thrashed and tired afterwards, is going to totally mess you up and make it very unrealistic for you to stay consistent, which is why you have failed in the past with these long draining workouts. And even if it's a 1 hour workout where you're training at this bodybuilding intensity, powerlifting intensity, maximal weights all the time, maybe you could build up to it, and that is definitely a possibility over the next 3 to 6 months. But if you just start with that every time and you burn out every time and you spent the last 10 years yo-yoing up and down, losing consistency, getting injured, all those other things, which are stories I hear all too common when people come in for consultations, then you need to stop training this way and train a smarter way, which I'm going to teach you a little deeper on this in other videos because today I just want to introduce the principle and give you some basics that you could potentially start with today, or obviously give you the deeper knowledge and customization points that we can obviously go deeper into as well. But anyways, basic principles. Now, the other common one I hear is F45 CrossFit Orange Theory. Now, I'm not super against these because they are very fun if you're a competitive individual, you used to be an athlete, all that stuff. But you do need to understand that you do need to be a little bit more careful about injury than you were when you were younger. And also your stress capacity isn't as big as it used to be. So you might be able to last on these for 2-3 weeks, but then you start feeling really sore, run down, tired. The idea of going and expending all this energy becomes really draining for you because your stress capacity and recovery capacity aren't what they were at that time, which is why a little bit of customization, a little bit of so the scientific term is undulating periodization, but essentially it means that you can have like a deload week or a lighter session that's still effective, et cetera, that will still get you the result. And that's what we have within strength training. And I'll do some more in-depth videos on it, but I do have another one I'll link at the end today that goes really deep into like all the strength training strategies for basics for beginners to elevate your metabolism, burn fat, and why it is better than all this other stuff. The other potential downside, and strength training does have a similar downside of that it can in some cases cause an appetite increase, but it's not nearly as bad as doing high intensity type stuff that your body's just not equipped and ready for. And when you couple the cortisol from your work, stress, your lack of sleep, and all the other things that happen to us as dads and as business owners and busy professionals, on top of the stress and the cortisol increase from these like really intense workouts that may not be appropriate for most individuals unless you have really good conditioning, you've been consistent for a while, which in that case you probably wouldn't be watching this, but maybe you are. Either way, like obviously there's people in their 60s who have been training for the last 10, 15, 20, or even 30 years who can still train at a higher intensity than most people in their 20s. But if you're just trying to get back in shape and you're 70 pounds heavier than you were when you were in your prime, or even 30 pounds heavier, and you're just trying to get back into it and you have high stress, these things are not going to work well. So I just want to make sure I explain that thoroughly, because I know that some people might be watching this saying, oh wait, but I like CrossFit, it actually works well for me. But those are usually the exceptions. If you've ever done it and you felt run down, you're probably one of those people who needs to be a little bit more careful with your intensity and account for your stress demands in other quadrants of life that you didn't used to have 10, 20 years ago. Okay. As well as the fact that you're a little bit older now, which doesn't mean that you can't do cool stuff. I mean, again, I know plenty of people in their 60s who could train harder than people in their 20s, but those people have been training for either 10 to 15 years if they got into it in, their midlife, or they've been training for 30 plus years if they've been doing it since they were, young and they never stopped, right? So these are kind of exceptions, but your average 60-year-old is going to have to train with a lot more TLC, being very careful than somebody who's younger. And even these people in their 60s need to be careful with their joints, except for one of them. I know one of them who's just built different. You know, he used to be a professional boxer back in the day, so he's just a different type of tough. But the other people I know in their 60s do need to be a little more careful. Point being, you're probably in your 30s and 40s, so we want to get you to the point where you're in just as good a shape as they are in their 60s, or better, because you take care of your joints. Okay, and that's why the mobility stuff's important. I should have included that here too, and that is part of the good workouts, right? So 30, 45-minute strength supersets. So this is a principle I'll talk about a little bit deeper in the strength training video, which is pretty in-depth, so I'll link that at the end. But I also have some videos on mobility routines, and I do occasionally talk about the importance of mobility routines. And I can do some deeper videos on that, how-tos, the importance of it, the advantages, how this can actually help improve your energy levels, because pain drains your brain. And when you're chronically sore, tight, in pain, blood flow is restricted because you're just so tight from sitting in front of a desk 12 hours a day, 7 days a week, or 5-6 days a week, however many, even 8 hours a day, 5 days a week will wreck your body, because you're sitting so much and you get so tight and you're not moving and you're not getting circulation. But if you've gone through a phase where you were grinding 12-hour days, 6+ days a week at some point, your body is probably pretty messed up. So you need to do a lot of mobility work, and possibly even spend, half of that 30-minute session on mobility before you even do the workouts, right? It doesn't take much to stimulate muscle growth, which is what stimulates the increase in metabolism, as I explained in the strength video. But it's very important that you avoid injury and that you work on improving your mobility and function over time, because we also got to take care of the amana that's our joints for the sake of Allah, so we can pray properly when we're older, right? Now, let's say that 30 to 45 minutes is still too long for you, okay? We could consolidate this into a very minimal 10 to 20 minute calisthenics workout and actually get progress with it, especially if you've barely been doing anything recently. And this is good for travel maintenance, because I know that you probably travel a lot more than maybe you did when you were younger. Alhamdulillah, one of the blessings of your success in your professional life and having a family. But when you travel, that's probably another thing that throws you off on your fitness. And we have other videos that talk about that, and I can even do deeper videos on that too. If you want to just let me know in the comments, and I can do them with the same strategy we do with our clients. We even have execs who are traveling every single week, businessmen, international businessmen who have multiple businesses in multiple countries who are traveling every single week. We've helped a lot of guys with this as well, alhamdulillah, as well as just guys who travel a lot for work, meetings, conferences, whatever it may be. So again, let me know if you need some more help in that in the comments. Now, or just book a consultation. But anyways, so this is a good maintenance protocol that can work well, and some of those guys will even still train hard. Like I have a guy who's mashallah an exec in a big company, and he still trains 3 to 4 days a week for a whole hour, mashallah, while he's traveling, because he always gets a hotel gym. In fact, because he doesn't have the wife and kids with him, sometimes he has even more time to himself, so he actually makes the most of the opportunity despite the adversity. He orders shish tawuk with no carbs, although I'd like to get more carbs in his diet, but obviously in those scenarios when you're eating out, you kind of have to compensate for the excess fats elsewhere. But again, we talk about that in the flexible protocols videos, and we can do more on that if you guys would like. Just let me know in the comments. But anyways, so and then obviously if you have more than 30 to 45 minutes and you have decent conditioning and you either have good genetics, you recover pretty well, or you've been training for a while already and you just want to optimize a bit, or after the next 3 to 6 months you get in a better flow with it, or maybe you're one of the guys who's on the younger end of the spectrum of my audience, maybe in your late 20s, early 30s. But I have guys in their 40s who are able to train like that too, even guys in their 50s. But again, it just depends on who you are, so you know yourself best. Then we could expand this to a 1 to 1.5 hour advanced efficient workout, but it depends on who you are. And the average guy that this is geared towards is usually going to need to do about a 30 to 45 minute workout. Okay. Now, another thing that is excellent for improving your energy levels and boosting your energy and not taking too much time from your day is walking and low impact cardio. Walking is one of the most flexible forms of exercise, and I'll link below in the description as well, inshallah, a video I recently did on, it's a very short video on like my very easy routine to implement walking as the easiest fat loss habit in your life that could help you lose up to 10 to 20 pounds of fat in the next 90 days, which is awesome. And you could even exceed 20 pounds of fat loss if you couple it with the other strategies and if you're above 200 pounds, etc. So there's a lot of awesome potential there. But anyways, now of course, once you build the conditioning, so 3 to 6 months from now, you're not going to be the same level you are right now, as long as we build up slowly. We can't build up too fast, otherwise you're going to burn out again. But in 3 to 6 months of consistency, once we learn to stack that consistency without overdoing it, and while taking the right deload weeks and all the other more complex variables, which I believe I talk about in the 2 strength training videos, I'm going to link the first of them at the end today. But if you guys need me to do more, just comment below one of my videos, get my attention, message me on Instagram, however you can get in contact with me, and I could definitely do more. I'm always happy to do videos that are valuable for the mission of solving the obesity epidemic by the permission of Allah inside of this ummah and getting the believers strong, fit, healthy, and everything else, and how it's going to benefit everybody, inshallah, bi'idhnillah. So, Once you've built up to it, then we can get into some of these more advanced forms. And running, you might already be ready to run. Like, if it's funny because I get some guys who, they could run once a week and it destroys them, right? If they run once a month, it'll destroy them. And I get guys who are like, oh yeah, I run, 1-2 miles, no problem. I used to run marathons, triathlons, no problem, but that was 10 years ago. But I can still go for a 2-mile jog here and there. And it's like a 2-mile jog is casual for them versus for the other guy, jogging half a mile is a nightmare that leaves them sore for 2 weeks, which is crazy. So we get guys all over the end of the spectrum. And again, the more you take care of your body, the better your body takes care of you by the permission of Allah into your 40s, 50s, and beyond, right? But we have some guys in their 30s who get sore for a week after they run. So that's the problem. Even their early 30s, even their late 20s, subhanAllah, which is kind of the younger end of things. SubhanAllah, some of these guys already get really messed up because, if you spent your whole 20s building your business, by the time you're, even 26, you could be overweight, right? But anyways, and that might be you, and you might be 36 now, so we got to build into it. But you will get to the point where you can do some of these things. And a lot of the brothers, after about 3 to 6 months, I will encourage them to get into a martial art, whether it's jiu-jitsu, which you do need to do like a solid wave of prep work for your joints for that, and specific movements, specific types of strength beyond just the normal functional strength we work on, because there's a lot of specific things we want to fortify so you don't just get massive injuries in jiu-jitsu, because there's a lot of potential for injury there. Same with boxing. But once you get used to it, it's an incredible form of heart-healthy, practical skill, defend your family, be a good role model for your sons, make your daughters feel protected, and make them, imprint upon them a good model for what kind of masculinity they should seek in their future husband, etc. There's a lot of good benefits to becoming the best masculine warrior, so to speak, for the sake of peace and self-defense, of course, that you possibly can, right? So anyways, and then later down the road, you could get into some of that circuit training above. But again, for a lot of guys in your 30s and 40s, it's just going to increase your cortisol too much, which is already too high. That's going to jack up your appetite, your recovery, even affect your sleep, cause a host of negative effects, which I cover in the 1+ hour cortisol video. Now, swimming can be a great form of exercise as well. I actually had a client who, I'm not going to say his name because I didn't ask him before doing this, but his name starts with an A, and mashallah, great brother, busy, mashallah, professional in his early 40s, and, a father as well. And for him, he found that of all the forms of exercise, swimming gave him the greatest energy boost. And it was amazing because before the program, he was in such a rut, but we just got him swimming in the mornings. And it was kind of an accidental discovery because I was originally just having him do the strength training walk, and he liked it, but sometimes he would still get, an energy crash in the evening. But when he started swimming, subhanAllah, it boosted his day so much that he no longer needed accountability. After like a month of swimming, he was doing it on his own. He was crushing it. And after 90 days, mashallah, lost 20 pounds, alhamdulillah. And he started under 200 pounds. So that's actually more than 10% of his body weight lost, mashallah, which is amazing. And absolutely crushed it, got in great shape, impressed his friends. He had another friend in the program who he knew prior to the program who was very impressed, mashallah, and leveled up as the man for his kids and everybody else who in his life he wants to be better for. And the best part is he noticed that he could do more extracurricular work for his masjid, which is, inshallah, may Allah accept it from all of us as sadaqah jariyah. So alhamdulillah. Now, basketball. I actually get a lot of clients who love playing basketball and used to play a lot of basketball. I even had a brother recently sign up who started at 270 pounds, but he loves playing basketball too, mashallah. So, we get all kinds of brothers who love playing basketball, and if that's something that you're already well conditioned to, that you enjoy doing, and you're not getting injured from it, it's a great, fun way to get your cardio in. Now, on the flip side, though, if you play basketball and every time you get injured, we got to build up your structural integrity first. And likewise, I had another brother, 260 pounds, mashallah, was still playing volleyball. Mashallah, he just needed to fix his diet and dial in on the travel schedule, but again, some of these brothers are able to do surprisingly athletic feats despite being really heavy because they maintain their conditioning. It was really just their diet, their stress levels, their recovery, their sleep, and in many cases their muscle mass. But with some of those brothers, maybe their recovery isn't as good as it was 10, 20 years ago, but they can still play these high-impact sports. However, if you're the average desk jockey or, doctor or business owner, whoever you are, and you haven't worked out in 20 years or you've never worked out in your life, don't start with basketball. Don't start with these, higher impact things, right? So we just need to be careful with these things. Anyways, and I had another brother who actually was already doing jiu-jitsu before he signed up, and he was only 30. He was a young guy, mashallah. No kids yet, but inshallah soon, mashallah. And for him, busy cybersecurity professional, but he was doing jiu-jitsu, started at 230, and actually he did a testimonial with me, so I can say his name, Brother Hasnain. Maybe you've seen him on my Instagram. Absolutely crushed it. I think he lost the first 20 or 30 pounds in I think 8 weeks or something crazy like that. I'll have to check, but he lost weight really fast because he was already burning a lot of calories through jiu-jitsu, and he already had a good foundation. I just had to have him do strength training 3 days a week, but he was burning good calories in jiu-jitsu because he was already doing it. So these things are viable in specific scenarios. But again, I had another brother. Actually, I've had multiple brothers who were either in their late 30s, early 40s, who were doctors who hadn't worked out really ever in their life. And for them to start something like jiu-jitsu, if they've never worked out in their life, you need to build a good 6 months of like strength training foundations before you get into that, and then the mobility and strength specific foundations for the functional strength and joint structural integrity required for jiu-jitsu before you get into that, or you're almost guaranteed to get injured. Okay, when you're rolling with some young, 30-year-old guy or some young 22-year-old guy at the peak of his strength and masculinity and injury immunity, right? Well, 19 is really the peak of your injury immunity, but you guys get the idea. So, obviously you don't want to go against those hard chargers who are going to mess you up until you've built the structural integrity for it, and then you feel really confident because you can defend your family very easily. Alhamdulillah. Not that you take your family to sketchy places, but you get the idea. Anyways, I'm going on a lot of tangents. So the big lesson here is that if you're a busy entrepreneur, professional dad, you need to optimize for time efficiency and energy boost, which is going to be the most practical thing for you. If you're dreading the workouts because they take so much energy, that's going to be a barrier to consistency. And it's a great way to build discipline, but at the same time, you need, a backup plan B strategy so you don't just unravel on consistency when you have a really difficult week or a difficult month or a difficult quarter or a difficult year or a difficult season of business or your career or whatever it may be. Otherwise, you're just going to keep dropping off and never make any progress. We need an easy, low impact strategy like walking and strength training or low impact cardio that you can use to stay active and fit and exercise even in your most busy periods, just like we talk about in the other videos about marathons and sprints. And even if you have to break it down to a 10 to 20 minute calisthenics home workout while you're traveling, like I actually have a brother, mashallah, he's actually in his 20s, recently got married, didn't have kids at the time that we did the program. I have to check with him now, but mashallah, his brother works at Facebook, and he sometimes have to work 17-hour days. 17-hour days, that's unfathomable. That doesn't even give you enough time to eat and sleep, let alone use the bathroom. SubhanAllah, these Facebook guys get overworked. But there was one time where we had to go on a retreat at Facebook, and even though they had gyms there and nice restaurants and everything, he didn't even have time to hit the gyms that they had provided for them there. So literally for this guy, to keep him consistent, I said, cool, do you take a shower every morning? Yes? Okay, great. Before you get in the shower, right after you wake up, use this to help you wake up. 5-10 minute calisthenics workout. I had him just doing some basic jumping jacks, push-ups, some very easy basic calisthenics type stuff. And there's some guys who are not ready for jumping jacks, but this guy mashallah was young, so I wasn't worried about his knees or anything like that. And I've even had guys in their 50s do jumping jacks, but again, it's a case by case basis. Obviously my guy in his 70s who I once had, I was not having him do jumping jacks or anything crazy yet until 6 months later. Then we got him boxing and stuff, which is cool, mashallah. But anyways, so in this particular case, in all these cases, we want to accommodate for what the circumstances are with your time constraints and your physical limitations, as well as your net stress and recovery capacity, which is why a lot of those other things are not optimal. And the best energy boosting, consistent workout that you can do for the rest of your life is going to be these two right here. And then you can dabble with the other ones, but you can always go back to these basics here. Okay. All right. So next up, let's talk about bad diets versus good diets. So all the bad diets: low carb, destroys your energy levels, bad for your metabolism and hormones in the long term. Carnivore, you're missing out on a lot of key foods. If you are going to do carnivore, though, like I talked about in the other video, you can do, fruit and other stuff with that, so you're at least getting some carbs in so you don't get all the downsides of keto and low carb. Vegan, I go deep in the anti-diet video where I talk about all the micronutrients you're going to miss out on, so don't buy into the hype from the game changers. And in that video, too, I talk about different scientists who have actually debunked the game changers, or at least Lane Norton, one specific scientist who debunked it, right? Intermittent fasting can work very well for some people, but only if you already have a healthy metabolism and your cortisol levels are already under control. For many whose metabolism is unhealthy, or they have, high cortisol or whatever it may be, you could get low energy, food cravings, binge eating, slow metabolism, increased cortisol. I'll link the diet deep dive at the end. So I'll link the strength training video and the diet deep dive at the end, because that one will be super helpful. All of this will be super helpful. And then the diet you want to follow is the M3 diet. Obviously, I'm biased, but that's why we put together this diet. Really, I'll tell you the origin of this diet. So, I have had a couple bodybuilding coaches, in the past, because I always like to invest in my own education. And the first time I got obese and really urgently needed to solve it was 2018. Okay, and I had a bodybuilding coach, and he didn't really explain the principles to me. He just gave me exactly what to do. I did it. I got shredded, alhamdulillah. Now, the next time I had a bodybuilding coach was a little different. It was the beginning of 2022. Actually, and I had just kind of, specified into the Muslim niche with Modern Muslim. And I wasn't, that overweight. But at the same time, I wasn't my fittest either. And so there was this bodybuilder from my gym who's actually in his 60s, mashallah, and still able to train at a high capacity because he's been consistent for the last 37 years, mashallah. And he needed some help with his social media and all that stuff. So, we used to hang out, and, he would help me with my meal prep. And that's actually where I learned how to meal prep as efficiently as I do now. I've always done some kind of meal prep, even, as early as 11 years ago. And I've always done some kind of cooking for the last 15 years, right? But this guy really showed me an amazing system, which I was able to then Islamify. And by Islamify, really, it was more culturify, because, as Muslims, it's not like, I mean, obviously the dietary restrictions are no pork, no meat that's been slaughtered in other than the name of Allah, no alcohol, no, you guys know you guys don't need me to refresh you in the fiqh of what's halal and haram to eat. However, what I mean is culturify, because, we get clients of all cultures. We've had clients who were, Han Chinese Muslims. We've had clients who are reverts, who are African American origin, who are Mexican origin, who are, we've had clients who were American or European origin. We've had many clients who are South Asian, Pakistani. That's one of the biggest demographics. Of course, we've had all different types of Arabs. So whatever, and then we've had people who were like, from one, or African, and we've had people from all these different cultures who were Americanized too, who like their burgers and their fries and their pizza and their fried chicken and everything else too. So every human being likes delicious food, and the only drawback with the bodybuilder diet was it was pretty plain basic food, right? I mean, obviously he would season it with like barbecue sauce and all this other stuff, or sugar-free barbecue sauce, but other than that, it wasn't really set up optimally for the average Muslim's palate, because as I've once said, we as Muslims, we like a little bit of flavor in our food, right? And so that's a big component, whether you're Pakistani, Arab, whatever culture you're from, it doesn't matter. Whatever culture you're from, you like flavor in your food. So what we did was we took the exact same macro ratios in his meal prep, and we put together some recipes, and we now have, I did with my first nutritionist, who's still a part of our company today, 45-page recipe book. But then our new recipe guy, Coach Syed, he's got like over 50 recipes. I mean, whenever clients ask for custom recipes, boom, he puts them together. And he puts together new recipes by his own initiative every season, like every Ramadan. Every week he's coming out with new ones. Every time a client has specific cravings. So mashallah, we've got a crazy database of stuff that fits all these ratios that literally doesn't feel like you're on a diet. Like literally biryani, fried chicken, curry, kebabs, palau. I mean, I'm talking a lot of Pakistani food, burgers, steaks, I mean, you name it, fries even, fried chicken, I think I already mentioned, pizza, I mean, anything you think of, even cookies, chocolates. I know I'm probably making you hungry, which the purpose of the video is to inspire you to be fitter and have better habits, but when you follow these recipes, you can have your cake and eat it too. And the thing, though, that begs the question, though, is I'm talking about how to be time efficient, not just how to boost your energy. And some of those recipes, I will be frank, that they're not the most time efficient, right? Now, if your wife is down to cook, absolutely amazing. Alhamdulillah, that is the situation. I'd say a large portion, if not most of our clients are in, is that their wife is down to cook. But we have some brothers where it's a burden for the wife, because we have some brothers who have 4 kids, 5 kids, 6 kids. And mashallah, one of the brothers who has 5 kids, his wife still cooks, but sometimes she's very overwhelmed with the kids. And, a lot of them are boys, so they're even more, rambunctious, so to speak. So sometimes she isn't able to get him his food as fast as he needs. And this is a common scenario. Like, let's say your wife were to get sick, God forbid, may Allah protect her, but these things happen, or is visiting her in-laws, that's a good thing, or sorry, your in-laws, so her parents, right? There are these situations that we need to be ready for, where we need to be able to take charge and know how to cook as well. Not because we're not this manly man who provides for your wife fully and she gets to stay at home, therefore she should cook. And look, we should be specialized in our roles. I mean, that's the way it's supposed to be. Men have the obligation to provide for our wives, and wives are supposed to cook for the family. But that doesn't mean that you can't learn how to cook too. And I know that some of you already know this, but there are some brothers who they've never even stepped foot inside of a kitchen. But when you start to recognize that putting your life in the hands of your wife, who sometimes is not going to be able to cook, and sometimes it's going to be a burden for her to cook the healthy foods, and alhamdulillah, sometimes she may be able to, but the point is you need to be able to cook too. And so, that being said, though, I have some really time-efficient meal prep strategies that are so to be frank, the first time you ever meal prep is going to take you 2-3 hours, okay? It's unfortunately, I wish I could tell you it's only going to be 45 to 60 minutes the first time, and it will get there eventually after a couple weeks, but the first month is going to be the roughest, okay? But the first month is where you have the most motivation too, because you're sick of being overweight, you're sick of being tired, you're sick of being worried about your health, you're sick of not having energy for your family and your kids, and being limited in your business and your career and your ibadah because your energy levels are poor and your fitness is poor. So you have the motivation to change, and by the time that you're out of that situation and that urgency is not there, but you're just maintaining on good habits and moving towards the positive goals you have, everything's already so easy for you because you're already in momentum, you already know what to do, you're already in the habits, you already know how to work out, everything is in good momentum, and then it's easy. So leverage those emotions, and if you need help, I would have either already posted it by the time this video drops, or I will be posting it soon, but I'm actually revealing the force method from one of my old courses. So now that we're putting out a new course, inshallah, very soon, bi'idhnillah, we're going to release more of the modules from the old course so that you guys can benefit here on YouTube, inshallah. So very, very excited for you to be able to go into that, and that is really going to help you. I mean, literally the FORCE method, it stands for facts, feelings, obstacles, roadmap, commitments, execution, right? So the beautiful thing with this is you can literally force yourself through this powerful framework that is driven by facts and the emotions behind those facts. I know we as men, we don't like to talk about our emotions, but we as human beings, we're driven by certain emotions. The reason why you go and binge eat every night is because of your stress and your tiredness. And the reason why you're inspired to change is because you want to inspire your family and be there and be that rock, be that one who's able to provide security, everything else for your family, be that role model, be that man who's leaving a legacy. Feel that sense of not pride as in like arrogance, but pride as in like I'm happy with this legacy that I left behind for the sake of Allah, and I know I'm pleasing Allah as a humble slave of Allah, which we all are, alhamdulillah. So, and Allah is al-mutakabbir, and we have no right to have any type of, kibr within ourselves, right? Alhamdulillah, may Allah keep us humble and give us the success of the most successful men in the world, but the humility that Allah deserves as his humble slaves. Ameen. So the point being, So I've set up the perfect ratios that account for the most effective bodybuilding diets within the palette of, a Pakistani or wherever you're from, right? So with that, you'll be able to really get great results. And of course, I have a deep dive video on all these diets above, which I'll link at the end. But I also have, a couple others where I teach some of these principles, like the basics on diet. I'll attach those in the description as well, inshallah. And if I forget, please just remind me in the comments, or if you can't find it. What I want you to do right now is start walking in strength training, and I'll post a strength training video in the up thing that YouTube lets you do at the end. I'll post a deep dive video in the other up thing that YouTube lets you do at the end. And then if you are tired of trying to figure this out by yourself, you want to skip the wait time, you're willing to invest in yourself, you'd rather spend the money than spend the time, then I'll also attach the coaching link below. So next steps, here is the diet video, here is the strength video. So go ahead and dive into the strength video and the diet video, and inshallah I'll see you in the next video. Assalamu alaikum.